hell have you done to my whiteboard?
6 experts had spent 5 months trying to decipher a billionaire's secret letters. They failed. Then a black girl walked in.
5 months of work, and you've ruined it with these filthy, stinking hands? Do you know what you've done? This is coded research, worth more than 10 lifetimes of your earnings. And you, a cleaner, are contaminating it with your tiny brain.
I didn't erase anything.
She said softly.
I just added 4 words.
He laughed, contemptuously.
4 words. From a black cleaner?
Then he looked at the whiteboard. His face suddenly turned pale. What had she written? Lawson didn't wait. He grabbed a cloth from the desk and wiped the whiteboard clean. Every symbol, every word, gone. His hand was shaking, not from anger, from something else, something he wasn't ready to name. He turned to the 2 colleagues standing behind him. Not a word about this, to anyone. Then he pointed at Sasha. Get out, and if I ever see you touch a marker in this building again, you won't just lose your job. I'll make sure you never clean another office in Boston. Sasha didn't argue. She picked up her mop, she picked up her yellow bucket, she walked toward the door. And right before she stepped out, she paused, just half a second. She looked back at the whiteboard, now blank, now clean, now empty of everything she'd written. It didn't matter. Those 4 words were still in her head. They'd always been in her head. But here's the thing Lawson didn't know. The door to the next room was open, and Colleen Moore, the youngest linguist on the team, had been sitting at her desk the entire time. She heard every word. She heard the shouting. She heard the silence. And in the 3 seconds before Lawson wiped that board clean, she did something no one noticed. She took a photo. Later that night, alone at her desk, Colleen opened the image on her laptop. 4 words and a symbol sequence. She didn't fully understand them, but she recognized the structure. It wasn't random. It wasn't nonsense. It was a transliteration key, a bridge between the cipher in letter number 6 and what appeared to be an ancient script. She ran it through the team's decryption software. Partial match. She leaned back in her chair. Her hands were trembling. 4 words from a janitor had just produced more progress on letter number 6 than the entire team had achieved in 9 weeks. 4 words that Lawson erased. 4 words he never wanted anyone to see. Colleen saved the photo in a locked folder on her laptop. She didn't tell Lawson. But now she had a decision to make. Go to Lawson, the man who just threatened to destroy a young woman's life, or go directly to the woman herself. Colleen chose the woman. The next night, she stayed late, on purpose. She waited until every office went dark. Then she walked downstairs, past the lobby, past the security desk where Officer Brenda Collins gave her a curious look, down into the basement, where the air smelled like bleach and wet concrete. She found Sasha in the supply closet, not cleaning, not organizing, sitting on an overturned mop bucket, legs crossed, reading a book so worn the spine was held together with tape. Colleen tilted her head to read the cover. Comparative Semitic Linguistics. A library copy, water-damaged, dog-eared on at least 30 pages. A janitor, reading ancient language theory, in a supply closet, at 11:30 at night. Colleen knocked softly on the open door. "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" Sasha looked up. Her face didn't change. Not surprised, not nervous, just still. The kind of still that comes from years of being careful around people who hold power over you. "I'm on break," Sasha said, like she needed to explain why she was reading. "I know." Colleen stepped inside. She pulled out her phone. "I need to show you something." She opened the photo, the one she'd taken 3 seconds before Lawson wiped the board. She turned the screen toward Sasha. "Did you write this?" Sasha looked at the image. Her expression didn't shift, but her breathing changed, just barely. Yes. Can you tell me what it means? Silence. Sasha's eyes moved across the photo, not scanning, reading. The way someone reads a sentence they already know by heart. 8 seconds passed. The supply closet felt smaller. Then she started talking. Not guessing, not stumbling, explaining. She said the cipher in letter number 6 wasn't one system. It was 3 systems, stacked on top of each other. The first layer was a substitution cipher, built on an ancient Ethiopian script. The second layer used West African symbols, each shape carrying a phonetic value. The third layer mapped the whole thing onto a rhythm pattern based on Morse code. 3 locks on 1 door. And the team had been trying to pick just one. Colleen's lips parted. No sound came out. Her phone nearly slipped from her hand. Sasha caught herself. She looked at the floor. I should get back to work. How do you know this? A pause. Sasha ran her thumb along the edge of the taped-up book. My granddad taught me. He said codes are just languages that haven't been introduced yet. Colleen didn't move for a long time. The fluorescent light above them buzzed and flickered once. That night, Colleen couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, running the math in her head. 4 words on a whiteboard, a partial transliteration key, 3 interlocking cipher layers, identified in 8 seconds by someone with no degree, no training, no credentials. Just a taped-together library book and a grandfather who played code games at the kitchen table. And then she thought about Lawson, the way he erased the board, the way he said, never clean another office in Boston, the way he looked at Sasha like she was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. He had the answer standing right in front of him, and he wiped it away. Because it came from the wrong hands, the wrong skin, the wrong job title. Colleen made her decision. The next morning, she walked past Lawson's office without slowing down, straight to the 4th floor. She knocked on Dr. Eleanor Davis's door. She placed her phone on the desk, the photo, the decryption results, everything. Davis studied the screen. Her reading glasses caught the light. She didn't speak for a full minute. Then she looked up. Who did this? The night janitor, Sasha Underwood. She's 22, no degree. Lawson caught her 2 nights ago. He erased everything and told her he'd end her career. Davis removed her glasses, set them on the desk, slowly, the way someone does before saying something they've already decided. Bring her to me. Colleen hesitated. What about Lawson? Davis didn't blink. Lawson had 5 months and 6 experts. He can handle a meeting. To understand Sasha, you have to understand Darnell. Darnell Underwood was a postal worker for 38 years. He sorted mail in Dorchester, 6 days a week, rain or snow. He never went to college, never left Massachusetts. But that man had a mind that didn't quit. He taught himself French from library books, then Arabic, then Amharic, then Yoruba. Not fluently, not perfectly, but enough to see the patterns between them. Enough to fall in love with how languages hide inside each other. When Sasha's mother died, Sasha was 4. Darnell took her in. No debate, no hesitation. He raised her alone in a 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen table that had a burn mark shaped like a crescent moon. That table became their classroom. Every night, Darnell would write Sasha a message in a homemade cipher, scraps of French mixed with Yoruba, Arabic letters rearranged into puzzles, symbols he invented himself. He called it the letter game. Sasha solved them all by 9. By 12, she was inventing ciphers Darnell couldn't crack. He'd sit across from her, squinting at her puzzles, shaking his head, laughing. Girl, you're smarter than the mail system, and that thing's been confusing people for 200 years. His leather notebook, The one Sasha carries in her back pocket to this day was originally a postal route log. He repurposed it, filled it with every cipher game they ever played, every pattern, every code. Page after page of a language only two people on Earth could read. At 16, Sasha applied for a linguistics scholarship. She was a finalist. At the interview, the panel assumed she was there for the janitorial apprenticeship in the same building. She was redirected to the wrong room. Twice. She never went back. Now she's 22. She cleans floors at night. She reads on her breaks. And Darnell, 76 years old, has early-stage Alzheimer's. Some days he calls her by name. Some days he doesn't know who she is. But here's the thing that breaks your heart wide open. He never forgets the ciphers. Sasha doesn't carry that notebook because it's useful. She carries it because it's the last thread connecting her to the version of her grandfather who still knows her. 2 days later, Sasha walked into the war room. Not with a mop, not with a bucket. With Darnell's leather notebook in one hand and a chipped coffee mug from the Boston Public Library in the other. She was still wearing her janitorial uniform, dark blue. Her ID badge still read Facilities. She hadn't been given a new one. Nobody had offered. 6 experts sat around the conference table. 5 of them had never spoken to her. The 6th was Lawson. He didn't look at her. He looked at Dr. Davis. For the record, I object to this, formally. Davis didn't respond to him. She gestured toward the corkboard where letter number 6 was pinned, the original, handwritten, behind protective glass. Ms. Underwood, whenever you're ready. The room was silent. The projector hummed. The air smelled like dry erase markers and stale coffee. 6 pairs of eyes locked onto a 22-year-old janitor who had no business being in this room. Sasha approached the corkboard. Her hands were shaking. She tucked them behind her back. The same posture she'd held when Lawson screamed at her 3 nights ago. But this time, she wasn't hiding. She was steadying. She studied the letter. 1 minute passed. Nobody spoke. The silence got heavy. One of the experts shifted in his chair. Another checked his watch. Then Sasha opened her mouth. And the room changed. She said the team had made a fundamental error. They've been treating the 9 letters as 9 separate puzzles, 9 independent ciphers, 9 locked doors with 9 different keys. But they were wrong. The letters weren't independent. They were sequential. Each letter's encoding system contained a hidden clue, a clue that unlocked the decoding key of the next letter. Miss the sequence, miss everything. One system, 9 layers, all connected. And nobody on this team had seen it. She turned to the whiteboard. She picked up a marker, the same kind of marker Lawson had ripped from her hands 3 nights ago. She began decoding the first 40 words of letter number 6. Live, in real time. She pulled transliterations from memory. She cross-referenced symbol values from Darnell's notebook. And then, the part that made Colleen's breath catch. She tapped out a rhythm on the conference table with her fingertips. Soft, precise, almost musical. Morse code, embedded in the 3rd cipher layer. A rhythm pattern hiding inside the symbols. Her fingertips on the table were the only sound in the room. She read the decoded passage aloud. It was a paragraph written by Harold Whitfield himself, about growing up poor in a mill town, about a woman who taught him to read using song lyrics and sewing patterns. Words that hadn't been read by anyone in decades. Words that 6 experts and 5 months couldn't reach. A janitor found them in 4 minutes. Silence. Long. Heavy. The kind of silence where people recalculate everything they thought they knew. Colleen exhaled first. Slow. Controlled. Then softly. She's right. The sequential key. It works. Nobody else spoke. One expert stared at his hands. Another removed his glasses and pressed his fingers into his eyes. Lawson sat completely still. His jaw was clenched so tight, a vein pulsed at his temple. He didn't congratulate her. He turned to Dr. Davis. We need to verify this with full decryption protocol. Anyone can get lucky with fragments. Davis ignored him. She looked at Sasha. Ms. Underwood, can you stay on? Sasha held the marker, the same marker. My shift ends at 6. I can come back after I sleep. We'll adjust your schedule. Colleen, get her clearance. Lawson stood up. His chair scraped the floor. He walked into the hallway and pulled out his phone. His voice was low, but Colleen heard every word. This is a liability. She has no credentials, no background check. When this falls apart, and it will, it's on Eleanor. They gave her a room, if you could call it that, a windowless side office at the end of the hallway, a folding table with one wobbly leg, a metal chair that squeaked every time she shifted her weight. No computer, no projector, no access to the team's shared decryption software. Just printed copies of the letters, photocopies, not originals, and a single desk lamp with a buzzing bulb. Her yellow mop bucket was still parked in the corner from her last cleaning shift. Nobody had moved it. She didn't either. Lawson called it security compartmentalization, said sensitive materials required controlled access, said it was standard protocol for outside consultants. Everyone knew the real reason. Over the next 3 days, Sasha worked. Alone. She filled notebooks with transliterations. She mapped cipher connections between letters. She made more progress in 72 hours than the team had made in 5 months. But in the daily briefings, Lawson never used her name. He referred to her work as the supplemental notes, her findings as the auxiliary input, her breakthroughs as unverified data points. 2 team members followed his lead. They wouldn't sit next to her in meetings. They addressed their questions to Colleen instead, even when Sasha was the one who'd done the analysis. One senior cryptographer left the room every time she entered. Didn't say why. Didn't need to. Colleen fought. She printed Sasha's transliterations, carried them to the main room, argued for integration. She was met with eye rolls and silence. Then came the coffee moment. Sasha walked into the break room to refill her chipped BPL mug. 2 men were already inside. Lawson and a man she hadn't seen before. Tall, expensive suit, silver watch. Preston Wells, Harold Whitfield's nephew. The man who stood to inherit $1.8 billion if the team failed. Preston looked at Sasha. His eyes moved from her face to her janitorial badge, back to her face. Eleanor told me she brought in a specialist. He turned to Lawson, smiled. This is the specialist? Lawson didn't answer. He didn't need to. The smile said everything. Preston leaned against the counter. So let me understand this. My uncle's legacy, his entire life's work, is in the hands of... He gestured at Sasha with his coffee cup. A lazy wave, like he was pointing at a piece of furniture. This? Sasha poured her coffee. Her hand was steady. She walked out without a word. She went back to her windowless room. She sat in her squeaky chair. She opened Darnell's notebook to a random page, one of his old cipher puzzles. She solved it in her head in 4 seconds. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She didn't need to. This is who she was. No one's laughter changed the math. But that night, she almost didn't come back. She sat in her apartment in Dorchester, staring at the wall, the notebook closed on the table. For the first time in her life, she asked herself if it was worth it. The room with no window, the name no one used, the smile on Preston's face. She picked up the phone, called Darnell. He answered on the 5th ring. His voice was foggy. "Granddad, it's me, Sasha." Silence. Then, "Who?" She closed her eyes, held the phone against her forehead, breathed. The next morning, she walked into the foundation at 7 sharp. Her mop bucket was gone from the side room. In its place, at the main conference table, sat a nameplate. S. Underwood, linguistic consultant. Dr. Davis had placed it there before anyone arrived. She said nothing about it. It was just there. Lawson saw it. His jaw tightened. He said nothing. But Sasha touched the nameplate with her fingertips. Just once. Just barely. And she sat down. Days 5 and 6 changed everything. Using the meta-cipher framework, the sequential key that connected all 9 letters, Sasha fully decoded letter number 6, then letter number 8, back to back. 2 letters that had haunted the team for months, cracked in 48 hours by the woman they wouldn't let sit at the main table. And what was inside those letters silenced even the skeptics. Letter number 6 contained Harold Whitfield's plan for 200 full-ride scholarships. Every one of them designated for first-generation college students, kids from families where nobody had ever held a diploma. Kids like Sasha. Letter number 8 described a literacy initiative spanning 12 American cities, libraries, after-school programs, community reading centers in neighborhoods that had been forgotten by every system designed to help them. A billionaire had locked his kindness inside a puzzle, and a janitor was the one setting it free. The team began to shift, quietly at first. The senior cryptographer, who used to leave the room when Sasha entered, he stopped leaving. Then he started asking questions. Then he started directing those questions to her instead of Colleen. One afternoon, he caught Colleen alone in the hallway. He spoke quietly, like a man confessing something he was ashamed to admit. "I've been doing this for 25 years. She sees things I don't even know to look for." Colleen said nothing. She just nodded. She already knew. The work itself was something to witness. Letter number 8's cipher included a layer based on West African textile patterns, kente cloth color codes, where each color carried a phonetic value. Sasha identified this because Darnell had taught her to read kente patterns as a child. His own mother had been a weaver in Georgia. Colors weren't decoration. They were language. Sasha's hands moved across the photographed margins of the letter, tracing invisible threads. Her pencil scratched across graph paper, mapping color references to sound values in real time. The room was silent, except for the scratch of graphite and a low whistle from Colleen that she didn't even realize she'd made. Lawson requested to review all of Sasha's decoded outputs, called it quality assurance, standard procedure, he said. He found no errors, not one. He didn't say so publicly. Every evening, Sasha called Darnell from the break room. She'd sit on the counter with her BPL mug and describe the ciphers to him, the patterns she'd found, the layers she'd peeled apart. She spoke to him the way you speak to someone who built the house you're standing in. One night, he was lucid, clear as glass. "You cracking those rich man's letters, baby girl?" She laughed, a real laugh, the first one we'd heard. "Yeah, Granddad, I'm cracking them."
That's my girl. That's my little code breaker.
The next night, he didn't know who she was. She described the ciphers anyway. She talked for 20 minutes to a man who couldn't remember her name. Because the codes were the last bridge between them, and she would keep crossing it until there was nothing left to cross. But while Sasha was decoding a dead man's dreams, a living man was trying to bury them. Preston Wells filed a motion with Judge Catherine Taylor. He wanted the estate deadline accelerated by 48 hours. His argument? Lack of institutional competence. His real reason? He could feel the money slipping away. Every letter Sasha cracked was a letter that moved $1.8 billion further from his hands. If the judge granted it, the team would lose 2 days they couldn't afford to lose. Letters number 6 and 8 were done. Letter number 9, the final letter, the one containing the passphrase to unlock the entire trust, remained sealed. And the clock just got shorter. It was almost 9 in the evening. The war room was empty. Everyone had gone home. Everyone except Sasha, still at the conference table, still tracing patterns in letter number 9. And Dr. Eleanor Davis, who appeared in the doorway holding 2 cups. Not coffee, tea. She'd noticed. Somewhere in the chaos of the past week, between briefings and deadlines and Lawson's cold resistance, Eleanor Davis had noticed that Sasha switched to tea after 8 o'clock. Nobody else had noticed. Nobody else had looked. Davis set the cup in front of Sasha and sat across from her. She didn't open with praise. She didn't open with small talk. She opened with a question. Who taught you to see patterns like this? Sasha was quiet for a moment. Then she told her. She told her about Darnell, the kitchen table with the crescent moon burn mark, the letter game, the notebook. She told her about the languages he taught himself from library books, a postal worker who never left Massachusetts but whose mind traveled the whole world. She told her about the scholarship interview at 16, how they redirected her to the janitorial program, twice, how she walked out and never went back. She told it the way she always told things, matter of fact, no self-pity, no bitterness, just the facts of a life shaped by doors that never opened. That's what made it devastating. Davis listened without interrupting. When Sasha finished, the room was very still. The tea was getting cold. Then Davis spoke.
I was the first woman hired in my department in 1991. My office didn't have a nameplate for 3 years. They told me it was a procurement issue. She paused. I know what it's like to be in the room, but not be in the room. Sasha looked at her. Really looked. For the first time, not as a janitor looking at a director, as one woman looking at another who understood the weight of invisible walls. Davis set her cup down. Regardless of how this project ends, I'm recommending you for the Foundation's Emerging Scholars Fellowship. Full funding. Tuition, stipend, research appointment. It's designed for non-traditional candidates. She let that word sit. Non-traditional. A polite way of saying people the system overlooked. Sasha stared at her. I didn't ask for that. Talented people rarely do. Davis held her gaze. That's usually the problem. Silence. The radiator ticked. Somewhere in the building, a door closed softly. Then Davis reached across the table. She picked up the nameplate, the one she had placed that morning. S. Underwood, linguistic consultant. She held it out to Sasha. Take this home. Put it somewhere you'll see it every morning. Sasha took the nameplate. Her thumb ran across the engraved letters, slowly, like she was reading it in a language she'd waited her whole life to hear. She didn't cry, but her breathing changed, the way it changes when something cracks open inside you that you've been holding shut for a very long time. Davis picked up her tea, took a sip, said nothing more. She didn't need to. The nameplate said everything. But letter number 9 was still locked, and they had 3 days left. Sunday afternoon. The building was nearly empty. Sasha wheeled Darnell through the front entrance in his wheelchair. His hands rested in his lap. His eyes moved slowly, taking in the high ceilings, the old stone walls, the light filtering through tall windows. Officer Brenda Collins was at the security desk, the same woman who had watched Sasha push a mop through these hallways for 2 years. She looked at Sasha, then at Darnell, then back at Sasha. She didn't say a word. She just nodded. Slow. Knowing. The kind of nod that says, I see the whole story. Sasha took Darnell to the war room. She parked his wheelchair in front of the whiteboards, the ones now covered in her transliterations, her symbol maps, her handwriting. Weeks of work, a lifetime of preparation. All of it spread across 6 boards in red and blue and black marker. Darnell was having a good day. His eyes were clear. He leaned forward in his chair and studied the boards the way Sasha studied them, that quick lateral scanning, left to right, back again. The same eyes, the same gift, the original and the copy. He was quiet for a long time. Then he raised a shaking hand and pointed at a symbol cluster on letter number 9, the one nobody had cracked, the one that kept Sasha up at night. "That's Morse," he said. His voice was thin but certain. "But it's backwards, and it's grouped in 3s, not 4s. He tapped the arm of his wheelchair. A rhythm. The same kind of rhythm Sasha had tapped on the conference table days earlier. The same instinct. The same ear. Sasha stared at him. She grabbed a marker. She wrote down exactly what he said. She tested it against the undecoded sections of letter number 9. It opened a new layer. Her hand froze on the board. She turned around. Darnell was looking at her, not at the boards, at her. "I knew you'd find the room where they needed you," he said. "I just didn't know which room it would be." The afternoon light came through the tall windows and made long golden rectangles on the floor. The wheelchair motor hummed softly. The old paper smell of the letters filled the air. Sasha knelt beside him. She took his hand. Thin, warm, familiar. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Some languages don't use words. In the doorway, Colleen stood with her laptop bag over her shoulder. She'd come in to grab something she forgot. But she didn't move. She watched the old man and the young woman. 2 people speaking a language no one else on earth could speak. She took a photo on her phone. Quietly. Neither of them noticed. Darnell's insight had opened a new door in letter number 9. But the full decode was still out of reach, and they had 2 days left. Monday, 18 hours left. Preston Wells got his wish. Judge Catherine Taylor granted the accelerated deadline. 48 hours shaved off. The team didn't lose 2 days. They lost the only 2 days that mattered. Sasha sat in the war room at 2 in the morning. Desk lamps and the projector's glow were the only light. Empty coffee cups surrounded her like a small city. Darnell's notebook lay open to a blank page. She'd run out of his tools. Every pattern he ever taught her? Used. Every cipher game they ever played? Applied. Every page of that leather notebook? Exhausted. Letter number 9 was 80% decoded, but the last 20%, the section containing the actual passphrase to unlock $1.8 billion, used something she'd never seen before. It wasn't linguistic. It wasn't mathematical. It was musical. Harold Whitfield had been an amateur pianist. The final cipher layer was built on a 12-tone composition, a sequence of musical notes that, when converted through a specific frequency-to-letter mapping, would produce the passphrase. Without music theory, the sequence was just noise. Beautiful, elegant, unreachable noise. Sasha stared at the symbols. She pressed her palms flat on the table. For the first time in this story, her eyes weren't smiling. She didn't read music. She'd never played an instrument. She'd cracked 3 cipher layers that 6 experts couldn't touch. But this was a wall she couldn't climb. And the clock wouldn't stop. At 5 in the morning, Lawson arrived. Early. Unusual for him. He walked into the war room expecting to find it empty. He found Sasha instead, surrounded by printouts of musical scales, tone rows, frequency charts, pages and pages of information she was trying to absorb in hours, what musicians study for years. He stood in the doorway. She didn't look up. For a long moment, neither of them spoke.
He looked at the work spread across the table. He looked at the dark circles under her eyes. He looked at the blank page in Darnell's notebook, the first blank page he'd ever seen in it. He saw the wall. He saw her hitting it. And for the first time, he didn't enjoy it. Something shifted in his face. Not warmth, not guilt. Something harder than both. Recognition. The kind that costs a man his pride to admit. He pulled out a chair. The legs scraped against the floor. He sat down across from her. The same table, the same room where he'd screamed at her, where he'd called her work nonsense, where he'd erased her writing and threatened to end her career. "I have a doctorate in applied mathematics from MIT," he said. "Before cryptography, I studied computational musicology." Sasha looked up. Her eyes were red. "I can help you with the tone row." A long silence. The projector fan hummed. A car passed on Commonwealth Avenue, its headlights sweeping across the ceiling. "Why?" Lawson didn't flinch. "Because the letters deserve to be read." He paused. The next words came slower, heavier, like stones he had to push uphill. "And because I was wrong about who could read them." Sasha held his gaze. She didn't thank him. She didn't forgive him. She slid a printout across the table. "Then show me how 12-tone rows work." They worked together for 6 hours, side by side. No small talk, no apologies, just the work. Lawson explained the musicological framework, how 12-tone rows function, how composers arrange sequences, how Whitfield likely mapped sound frequencies to character values. Sasha listened. She absorbed. She connected. Then she found it. The tone row wasn't random. It was based on a specific melody, a hymn. She recognized it not from any music class, but from Darnell's kitchen. He used to hum it while writing his hardest ciphers. A low, steady melody that meant this one is going to be tough. "Go down, Moses." She hummed it, softly at first, then stronger. Lawson transcribed the intervals. They cross-referenced against the final cipher block. Character by character, the passphrase emerged. Painfully slow, then faster, then all at once. The rest of the team arrived at 9. They found Lawson and Sasha standing at the whiteboard, side by side. The entire passphrase decoded. 42 characters, written in blue marker. Colleen read it aloud. The room went still. "The hand that cleans the floor may write the future." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Every set of eyes in the room turned to Sasha, then to her hands, then to the yellow mop bucket that was still sitting in the corner. The same bucket she'd pushed through this hallway for 2 years. The same bucket that was there the night Lawson found her at the whiteboard. Harold Whitfield, a man who died before Sasha was born, had written a passphrase that described her life. He never knew her name. He never saw her face. But somehow, he knew she was coming. A billionaire who grew up poor in a mill town, who was taught to read by a woman using song lyrics and sewing patterns. He didn't design this puzzle for experts. He designed it hoping the experts would fail, hoping someone unexpected would walk in, someone whose hands knew both the mop and the marker. Dr. Davis called Judge Catherine Taylor's chambers. The passphrase was tested against the escrow system by the estate's independent auditor. It worked. The $1.8 billion trust unlocked. Preston Wells's legal challenge was dismissed. He left the courthouse with his lawyer. No comment, no statement. 5 months of waiting, millions spent on legal fees, and in the end, he was beaten by a 22-year-old janitor and a dead man's faith in people like her. In the war room, there was no champagne. No applause. No celebration. Just Colleen putting her hand on Sasha's shoulder. Just Sasha closing Darnell's notebook, every page used, every cipher spent, and slipping it back into her pocket. And the mop bucket, still in the corner, still yellow, still there. Sasha looked at it for a long time. She didn't move it. She didn't need to. It wasn't a reminder of where she'd been. It was proof of how far 4 words can travel. 3 weeks later, the Boston Public Library, Bates Hall, 500 people under a chandelier that had been hanging there for over a century. University presidents, foundation donors, journalists, city officials. The kind of room where last names carry weight and handshakes come with business cards. Sasha sat in the 3rd row. She was wearing a blazer she'd bought that morning from a consignment shop on Tremont Street, navy blue, slightly too big in the shoulders. She'd spent 11 minutes in the fitting room deciding if she deserved it. Darnell's notebook was in her inside pocket. Her BPL mug was not with her. Some things belong in supply closets, some things belong in libraries. She knew the difference now. Dr. Eleanor Davis stepped to the podium. The room settled. 500 conversations dissolved into silence. She spoke about Harold Whitfield, his childhood in a mill town, his fortune built on textiles and publishing, his belief that wealth without purpose was just numbers in a vault. She spoke about the 9 letters, the 5-month puzzle, the team of experts who gave everything they had. Then she paused. The kind of pause that makes 500 people lean forward in their chairs. The Whitfield letters were cracked by a team of extraordinary minds, cryptographers, linguists, mathematicians. She looked out at the audience. But the breakthrough, the key that unlocked everything, came from a young woman who joined our team from the Foundation's facilities staff. A murmur rippled through the hall. Davis let it pass. She had no degree. No credential, no pedigree. She had a grandfather who taught her to see what the rest of us couldn't. Davis's voice didn't waver. Sasha Underwood is, without reservation, the most gifted linguist I have encountered in 30 years. Silence. Then applause. Not polite applause, the kind that starts slow and builds until it fills the ceiling. Until the chandelier trembles, until 500 strangers are on their feet for a woman most of them had never heard of. Sasha stood. She didn't smile for the cameras. She didn't wave. She looked across the room and found one face. Colleen, standing in the 4th row, clapping with both hands raised, tears running down her cheeks. Sasha smiled at her. Just her. The first person who looked at a janitor and saw a linguist. After the ceremony, the crowd thinned. Small groups formed near the reception tables. Wine glasses clinked. Business cards changed hands. Sasha stood near a window, away from the clusters, holding a glass of water she hadn't sipped. Dr. Davis found her there. She was carrying something wrapped in brown paper. She handed it to Sasha without ceremony. "This is yours." Sasha unwrapped it. A framed copy of letter number 9. Not a photocopy, the original, signed and released by the estate. The letter that nearly broke her. The letter that Lawson and she decoded together at 5 in the morning. The letter that contained a dead man's prophecy about a woman he never met. Sasha turned it over. On the back, in Davis's handwriting, 5 words. For Darnell, who taught the language. Sasha read it again. Her hand came up to her mouth, slowly, the way a hand moves when the body is trying to hold something in that the heart has already let go. She cried, quietly, standing by a window in the Boston Public Library, holding a billionaire's letter and a mentor's words. She let herself be seen. Not as a janitor, not as a consultant. Just as a granddaughter who learned to love language at a kitchen table
with a crescent moon burn mark. Across the room, Officer Brenda Collins stood in her security uniform. She was working the gala. She'd watched Sasha mop floors at midnight for 2 years. She'd nodded at her in the lobby when Sasha wheeled Darnell through the door. She'd seen the whole invisible arc, every chapter no one else had read. She didn't clap. She placed her hand over her heart, and she held it there. Later. The hallway outside Bates Hall. The crowd was gone. The caterers were packing up. Sasha sat on a bench with the framed letter in her lap. Colleen appeared. She was holding something too. A photograph, printed and framed in a simple black border. The photo from the war room. Darnell and Sasha, side by side at the whiteboard, his shaking hand pointing at a symbol cluster, her marker frozen in midair. 2 code breakers, 2 generations, 1 language. "I thought you should have this," Colleen said. Sasha held the photo in one hand, the framed letter in the other. 2 objects, 2 validations, one from an institution that finally saw her, one from a friend who saw her first. She didn't say thank you. She just looked at Colleen the way people look at someone who changed the trajectory of their life. Colleen looked back. Nothing else needed to be said. In the weeks that followed, the story traveled. A clip from the gala. Davis's introduction of Sasha reached 2.2 million views in 3 days. The comment sections filled with the same sentence, repeated in 100 different ways. I see myself in this story. 3 universities offered Sasha admission, full scholarship. The Whitfield Foundation's Emerging Scholars Fellowship was formally awarded. Tuition, stipend, research appointment. Everything Davis had promised that night over tea. The Whitfield Trust released its first disbursement, 200 scholarships for first-generation students, named by unanimous vote of the Foundation's board. The Darnell Underwood Language Fellowship. A national newspaper ran a profile. The headline, "The Janitor Who Unlocked a Billionaire's Legacy." Lawson was quoted in the article. One sentence. Ms. Underwood possesses a kind of intelligence that institutions like ours aren't designed to recognize. That's our failure, not hers. He never apologized to her directly. But in the world of academia, a public quote like that is more than an apology. It's a scar left on purpose. And then Sasha went home. She took the framed letter and the photograph to Darnell's apartment. He was sitting at the kitchen table, the one with the crescent moon burn mark. He was having a foggy day. His eyes drifted. His hands lay flat on the table. She placed the letter in front of him. Then the photo. She opened his leather notebook to the very first page. The first cipher he ever wrote for her. She was 5. Simple letter substitution. A becomes B. The beginning of everything. I solved the last one, Granddad. Darnell looked at the notebook. He looked at the letter. He looked at her. Recognition flickered, like a light coming on in a room everyone thought was empty. He reached for her hand. Thin, warm, trembling. He didn't say her name. He said something better. My little code breaker. He remembered. The kitchen faucet dripped. The late afternoon light turned gold. His hand rested over hers. And for one perfect moment, nothing was forgotten. 6 months later, Sasha Underwood sat in a lecture hall at Boston University. 3rd row, notebook open, pen in hand. Not Darnell's notebook. A new one. Black leather. Clean pages. Room for new codes. New languages. New patterns she hadn't discovered yet. She was studying comparative linguistics on a full ride, the Whitfield Emerging Scholars Fellowship. Her first published paper, co-authored with Colleen Moore, was on polyglot cipher systems in African diasporic communication. 2 professors cited it within the first month. She still worked 1 night a week at the Foundation building. Not because she had to, because Brenda Collins saved her a locker.
Because the third-floor hallway still smelled like bleach and old paper and the beginning of everything. Because some places hold the shape of who you were, and she never wanted to forget the woman who pushed the yellow bucket. Darnell moved to a memory care facility in the fall. His room was small, clean, quiet. On his nightstand sat two things: the framed photograph of him and Sasha at the whiteboard, and his leather notebook, the original, the one with the postal route log crossed out and the cipher games written over it. The staff said he opened it some nights, late, when the hallway was dark and the other residents were sleeping. He'd trace the ciphers with his finger, slowly, like a man rereading a love letter. And he'd smile, not at the puzzles, at the memory of the girl who solved them. On clear days, Sasha visited. They sat together. She'd write a cipher on a napkin, simple ones, the kind he used to make when she was 5. He'd study it. Sometimes he solved it. Sometimes he just held the napkin and looked at her with eyes that remembered more than his words could carry. They still played the letter game. They'd play it until there were no letters left. Dr. Eleanor Davis retired from the foundation that spring. Her final act was a new policy, permanent, written into the foundation's charter. Every research project must reserve one position for a non-credentialed community applicant. No degree required, no pedigree, just ability. She called it the Open Door Protocol. Colleen Moore was promoted to senior linguist. She and Sasha presented together at conferences now, side by side. The woman who took the photo and the woman in it. Gregory Lawson still led cryptography projects at the foundation. He never apologized to Sasha in person, but he cited her methodology in his next 3 published papers. Every citation was a public admission, printed in academic journals, permanent, irreversible. Sasha didn't need the apology. She had the citations. In academia, that's louder. The Darnell Underwood Language Fellowship funded 34 students in its first cycle. One of them was a 19-year-old dishwasher from Baltimore who spoke 4 languages and had never been inside a university. He read about Sasha's story online. He applied the same night. His application essay was 1 sentence. If she could walk in, so can I. So here's what I want to ask you. Tomorrow morning, you're going to walk into a building, an office, a school, a hospital, a store, and there will be someone there you've never really looked at. The person who refills the coffee, who empties the trash, who holds the door open while you walk through without breaking stride. Ask them one question you've never asked before. Just one. You might be standing next to someone extraordinary who's been waiting their whole life for a single person to notice. If this story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been the one who finally saw someone, tell me. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because this channel is built on stories like Sasha's. Stories the world almost missed. And if you're in a position to hire, to mentor, to open a door, build your own open door protocol. One position, one chance. You never know what you'll unlock. Remember this. The hand that cleans the floor may write the future. Remember that.
You know what I learned from Sasha? We judge people by what we see. The uniform, the job title, the name tag, and we think that who they are. But it's not. It's just what they are wearing. What someone does for a living is not what they're capable of. And we mix those two things up every day. And here's the hard truth. How many geniuses have we walked past? How many people with something incredibly inside them? And nobody ever stopped to ask. Nobody ever said, what do you think? We just assumed because of the uniform, because of the job, because of the skin, and we lost them. The world loved them, and we didn't even know. But I need to say this to anyone who feels invisible right now. People not seeing you doesn't mean you are not there. It means they are not looking. Because one day the right door opens, and when it does, you will be ready. Not because someone gave you permission, because you never stopped. So, let me ask you, when was the last time you really looked at someone you see every day? Not a jail job, a them. Try it tomorrow. Your mind to be surprised. Like, share, and subscribe. Real stories, real justice, every week. And remember, the hand that cleans the floor may write the future.